really like to take the Brewers game away. You know, it's one of those games where they put the ball in the right place, and I gave up some runs, and you know that's baseball. The best pitcher in baseball gets roughed up every now and then. So.
There aren't too many undefeated baseball pitchers at the end of the year.
And if there ever was one, I'd really like to meet him.
Bryan Morris joining us here on Tullahoma Sports Plus. If you want to talk to Bryan, you can call right now at 454-1005. If you just want to say hi to him, maybe you want to ask Bryan a question, phone line's open, 454-1005. Bryan, let's go back. You're the only former Tullahoma Wildcat and former Motlow Buck to reach the major leagues. Of course, DeJuan Brazelton reached the majors as a former Tullahoma Wildcat. David Weathers reached the majors as a former Motlow Buck. You're the only player to reach it, to play for both. What do you remember from Tullahoma that let me ask this different. When did you first think, I think I can pitch in the major leagues? Or you know, I mean, was that just a natural evolution, or do you ever remember sort of thinking that as a kid?
Well,
or did you always think it?
Well, growing up, that was my dream. That was the ultimate goal, was to play in the major leagues, and it wasn't always to be a pitcher, because I was a position player first whenever it came to high school and even at Motlow. I would have to say after my junior year, we was playing summer ball, and I grew a couple inches and got a little bigger, got a little stronger, you know. And then during the summer, the ball starts jumping out of my hand a little better, and we're competing against teams that have a lot of Division I prospects and a lot of professional prospects. And I was competing against those teams, and I was very successful. In the league we were in, I ended up getting most valuable player out of the whole, I guess, state of Tennessee for that league. And that's when I started getting recognition from college scouts and pro scouts. So I was like, okay, everything may be falling into place.
Now, you drafted in the 3rd round by Tampa Bay. How tough was it to turn that down and go to Motlow?
Well, it was really tough to put my dreams on hold, for another year. But I like to believe that I have a father that's very knowledgeable when it comes to baseball, and he told me that I wasn't ready, and I trusted him in that matter. And as it turns out, it worked out for the best.
Yes, it did, because you went to Motlow in 2006. You went 10-1 with a 0.82 earned run average and 122 strikeouts. Motlow's never gotten so much attention. So you end up being a 1st-round draft pick of the Dodgers. Tell us about getting that call.
Well, we were actually watching it on the internet. That was the first year that they had a live feed of the draft, and I had some family, and I believe Coach Hargrove was there, and we were sitting there watching. And I went to Los Angeles the weekend prior to the draft, and they told me what their thought process was and what their plans were, or what they were trying to do. And then when that pick come along, that's what I was expecting to go, because that's what they told me, and then that's what happened. That's another moment where I actually stepped outside, away from everybody, and just let it sink in. That really happened, because that's after my junior year. My senior year and the year at Motlow, that's all I told myself, was I was good enough to be a 1st-rounder, and I was good enough to be in the big leagues. And and then the work paid off. I was a 1st-rounder, and then these past 5 or 6 years and paid off, because I've made it to the big leagues.
Baseball's so unique, because most kids our size and this sort of thing, kids don't grow up thinking about being a professional football player or basketball player. But baseball's that sport that every kid, when they're 6 or 7 and they play, everybody wants to be a major leaguer. So I mean, that's living so many people's dream. Talk about your family a little bit, Bryan. Your family has a great tradition at Motlow.
Yeah, well, we can start with, my dad. He coached there pretty good while, 12, 13 years, maybe more. And that was after him playing a few years in minor league baseball. And then my oldest brother, he went 2 years there before he went to Tennessee. My middle brother went there 2 years and played 3 years in the minor leagues with the Yankees.
Now give us some names so people can recollect.
Josh is my oldest brother.
He went to UT.
Josh, I saw him today, Scott. He works over at the courthouse in Manchester, and I was working at the jail and went up and talked to Josh, and he knew Bryan was going to be on the show tonight, and he said, I want you to know this. He said, I've taught Bryan everything he knows.
And Bryan confirmed that before we went on the air, that in fact Josh did teach him everything he knows, and half his salary is Josh's now.
Wow.
All right, we just got another minute or so. The other, I know Steven.
Steven is the one that went to Motlow afterwards.
He was a great player,
yes,
all over
yes,
the Motlow record book.
Yeah, he's on there. He may be on there more than I am, actually. So, and he went on to play maybe, I think, 3 years in the minor leagues with the Yankees before he had shoulder surgery. So, and then 2 cousins went to Motlow. Jason Evans went to Tennessee and played there. And then Wade Vincent, he went there and he was a catcher. Both my cousins were catchers. So it's kind of unique. 2 cousins, catchers, 2 brothers, a pitcher, and then Josh, he played all over the infield and pitched as well. So.
And now you've got 2 nephews at Motlow.
And now I have a sophomore and a freshman over there at Motlow with John Teeterman and Chevis Hoover. So it's a family tradition, I guess.
It's easy to say that the Morris family is the Majors family of Motlow.
I would say
I think that's fair to say. No other family comes close. Benz, another question before we close this out with Bryan.
Well, Bryan, what would you think your future would be now that you've been in the major leagues and you've pitched in 5 games for the Pirates? Have they talked to you about next year, any the possibilities for you next year?
Well, we had a end of the season meeting with the pitching coach and the manager and the general manager. And Clint Hurdle basically said, we're going to have a good old-fashioned tryout for the bullpen spots. And then they told me they're going to give me every opportunity to be a back-end guy of the bullpen, and they're expecting me to be there. And I guess there could be a possibility of me being a closer one day in the big leagues. But at the same time, I'll get whatever role I deserve and I earn. So.
Right. And I know you, in the past few years, you played winter ball and stuff, but you're not going to do that this winter.
No, I've decided that this winter, the most important thing for me to do is rest and make sure that I'm 100% healthy and ready to go when spring training comes around, because I expect to play into October next year.
Right.
So.
February is just not going to come soon enough for you, is it? When do the Pirates report? Do you know?
Last year we pitchers reported on the 10th of February, so we get there a little bit earlier than the position players. So, and then no, it won't get here fast enough. I've been home. I guess it'll be 2 weeks on Wednesday, and then usually you take 2 to 3 weeks off, and I got outside and ran already today, so I'm already itching.
Scott, Don Roden and I went to spring training a couple of years ago, and we stayed in Kissimmee, Florida, and the first trip we made was down to Pirates spring training facility. We got to see Bryan pitch that day. I think it was against Minnesota Twins. But anyway, you got them 1, 2, 3 in your debut in spring training, so that was impressive, and you've been doing well ever since.
Yeah, I went through some struggles early on in my minor league career. 2009 was a big, that was a big part of my struggles. And I went through mechanical changes. I went through shoulder problems.
You had Tommy John surgery, didn't you?
Well, I had Tommy John surgery a couple of years prior to that. I missed the 2007 season because of that. But the winter of 2009 going into the 2010 season was huge for me. I went back to the drawing board and simplified everything, and that was the first year I can say I really worked my tail off to make myself a better player, better pitcher.
Well, whatever you did, it's obviously worked, Bryan. We really appreciate you coming in, and we're going to hold an open spot late January, early February, before you head out to spring training, we want to ask you to come back in and we'll talk a little bit about the upcoming season. Okay?
All right, that sounds good.
All right, appreciate it. Bryan Morris, pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates, former Tullahoma Wildcat and former Motlow Buck. You can follow him on Twitter at Bryan19Morris. We'll break and come back. This is Tullahoma Sports Plus.